I was helping potty train my grandbaby, and all the potty books I was reading to her just weren't the rah books. So I started chanting, "Who put the pee-pee in the great big potty?" She goes, "It's me! I peed! You put the pee-pee in the great big potty?"
Well, if that doesn't give you a sense for what's to come in this conversation, I don't know what will. Welcome to You May Contribute a Verse. I'm Josh Munkin, co-host alongside Brenna Jenneret and backed by our powerful vocalist, John Seymour, who's our podcast wizard. We are bringing you a conversation I'm very excited for. I feel like I say that every time, but I'm always excited for these conversations. Kat Chen is our guest today, lately the published author of, well, many books, but most lately, the third in a set of 3 board books in the Play With Me series. Very exciting conversation. The thing that I have to say about this, my personal connection, is that I directly attribute this interaction and setting up this recording with Kat with helping me to negotiate and start in my agent relationship with Joyce Sweeney. Kat Chen is my new agency sibling, or agent sibling, I should say, and I'm very excited to share this with her because she is extremely prolific and just a real hoot, as you'll see. Before we get to Kat's verse, I wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, Tealmore Press, who has a couple of books to promote at the moment. Have you looked up in the night sky lately and seen the moon? I have. In fact, I have seen a supermoon. It was very bright. Sue Lancaster's Supermoon, published on November 16th, also coincided with the actual supermoon. So make sure and check that out. And then also in a couple of weeks is another book that I personally think you should pick up called Naked, which depicts a different kind of moon. Please pick up those and check out Tealmore's back catalog on tealmorepress.com. And without further ado, here is Kat Chen's verse. I'm at the end of my coffee, so hopefully I won't choke.
Right? Oh, this is my second cup. I don't normally go for the second cup, but I was like, oh God, I have to be perky.
We were promised by Joyce that you were going to be a very fun guest, so caffeinated is the way to go.
I believe she said you would be a hoot. So
a hoot. All right, that's a high bar for me to launch for, but okay.
Yeah, we had them on the podcast, like a year ago maybe, and I mean Joyce is just a delight. Like, they're so fun to chat with, and just like, I feel like I could just hang out with them in, a casual situation, and it would be
I have a
super
great
fun.
Joyce story that actually...
Oh, please.
Yeah, well, it will be about my first and only kids' book sale this series. So, I don't know, are we still recording?
Yeah.
We are recording, let's go.
Get in.
We're ready for the story.
Yep, get into it.
This is the soft open, Kat.
This is the soft open. So sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It was
soft.
too soft. It was too soft. You didn't even know.
The typical question for me is, how did you go from adult romance into kids' picture books? Which is a very valid question. I have always in my head written romance, even before I started writing. Did you know that Luke Skywalker had a girlfriend? Yes, he did. It was me. I never wrote any of it down, but let me tell you,
I walked right into that. In my head, I was like, no, I had no idea. Like, I'm excited to hear this backstory. Like, I took that bait so hard.
Well, yes. So, I mean, even as, of course, that was a teenager, I never wrote any of this stuff down, but I was always adding myself as the kick-ass heroine / girlfriend.
Yes. Yeah.
The Mary Sue.
It makes sense that I would grow, as I became a writer, that I would grow up and become a romance writer. But then I had kids, and I'm reading kids' books to them every day. We were big readers, and I wrote a couple books on the side, but I was still learning my craft. I actually started out as a screenwriter, so just learning, all the different forms, and I'm waving my hands like crazy. All the different
Can't hear
forms
the hands.
have different techniques, and so I was learning all of that. So I never broke in kids' books. I didn't write a lot of them. My focus was romance. So years go by, I break in romance, I'm publishing steadily, and, at this point I've done almost 80 books in adult romance.
Oh my God, I knew it was a lot, Kat. Wow.
Well, I've been doing it. Amanda, my eldest daughter, is 38. And I started writing, I wasn't selling, but I was writing professionally when I was pregnant with her. So I didn't break in until 1999, and the book didn't come out till 2000. But once you get on that romance treadmill, it used to be major presses would publish you at most twice a year. And category, which is like the Harlequins, maximum 4 times a year. So
that's a lot.
Well, it's
so wild.
But
that sounds incredible. Let's do that.
Well, but you have to keep churning it. Once the internet hit, so that's how fast they would allow you to go in order to build your audience. And you had to go in the big books twice a year to start building your audience. In fantasy, it's like once a year. But romance, it was twice a year for the big books. In category, it was 4 times a year. Well, as internet self-publishing came along, in order to keep your momentum building, you had to produce new content monthly.
Holy.
Now,
published content.
I'm all for writing like a lot and getting a lot of stuff out there, but I don't know if I could do monthly.
Most of us, in fact, just about all of us, burned out on that schedule.
Yeah.
Who is holding you to that schedule? The publishers?
The publishers maintain the 2 times a year max and 4 times a year in the shorter form, because that was their publishing schedule, and they didn't want to devote all that time to just you. They have other authors too. But it was the self-publishing people who looked at sales and got all this data on, well, if I do a little short story once a month or every couple weeks, that's why I say new content. So that's when you started getting second epilogues and, short story teasers or deleted scenes, is because your fan base, in order to grow your fan base, you had to keep them interested. And I've had people say, look, if you truly want to go from, a few thousand a year to tens of thousands a year, you have to provide them new content weekly.
I mean, how do you write anything else that's substantial then?
I couldn't.
Any other books? Yeah, there's no time.
I burned out. I think I did at one point 7 books in 1 year, and then I just melted down.
Oh,
and these are shorter books. They're not 100,000 words. These were more 50, 60.
I don't write 7 picture book manuscripts in a year.
Picture books are very, very different.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, wow.
So anyway, I was on that romance treadmill for years when I had my first grandbaby.
Congratulations.
I was out there to help out, and Ellie was a preemie. So I was out there helping out for a month. Now, and I'm looking at kids' picture books. I'm not actually reading them to the premature infant. But
right.
I'm still in that mode when my agency sent out a newsletter that said, hey, we have a brand new kids' book agent, Joyce, and if you have some old kids' picture books, why not dust them off and send them to them? And I was like, hey, cool. In between, diapers and I'm a really bad cook, so ordering food from DoorDash. Anyway, I mean, come on. the parents were parents of newborns. They don't need to be poisoned by my cooking.
Right, exactly.
They've got enough going on, yeah.
They've got enough going on. So I ended up dusting off a couple old, of all the kids' books that I'd written decades before. I was like, oh, these are pretty good. And I sent them to Joyce. Joyce came back immediately with, here's the things you do fantastic. Here's the things you need work on. They were very nice about it. Why not sit down, write 30 to 50 kids' books, see where your muse takes you, where you settle in. Unknown
30
to me,
to 50, yowza.
30 to 50. And if I hadn't had the background in novel writing, I wouldn't have understood. It takes novel writing, at least in romance, because the genre is so huge. You get early writers who are doing, well, today I'm going to do space opera, tomorrow I'm going to do a historical romance, and then I'm going to go to a shifter, and they're kind of bouncing around, seeing where they land. And it's not until they're like 10 books in that they go, oh, this is where I belong.
Yeah,
now, you wouldn't tell a beginning novelist, write 30 novels and figure out where you land. That's just, that's too much. But I understood what Joyce was saying. So I came back with, can I send them to you and get your feedback? Joyce, like she told everyone, said, absolutely no problem. Apparently, I was the only one who actually did it. But that's because I was living and breathing kids right then. And I couldn't, it's hard for me to go from diapers to hot and heavy with, Hero. So I settled into kids' books, and every day I would throw her 2 or 3 books. And they would just come to me, and I already had I'd already done, by that point, it was, 60 novels. And, then there's also the screenwriting background. So all of it came together that I could do this. And and she was right, within about 30 to 40 of these manuscripts, with Joyce giving me revisions all through, I really kind of started to figure out what I was doing and where I belonged and why. So at the end of my long visit to help out with the preemies, I came home, took a shower, took a very, very long nap.
No showers that full month.
That whole month, no showers at all. But I then sat down with Joyce via Zoom, and we went over all the different manuscripts and picked the Play With Me series. Joyce sent it out. And you know how it goes with submission. This is old school submissions, where you send it out, and then 3 months later, the agent says, hello, did you read it? Now, I was used to this from novels, but come on, picture books are 200 words. How long does it... But I actually had, through romance novels, I had understood about the editor may love it, but now is the time when they take it to committee and have to pitch and blah, 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 because they've got to get everyone on board. Okay, so it went through a first round of submissions and eventually got rejected, went through a second round, and Rise was interested. Yay! So then there was negotiation, and then... unknown to me, eventually I was offered the contract and Joyce accepted. Joyce announced it to the agency. They had a little party.
Oh, Joyce, did you get a magic bean? You must have gotten a magic bean.
Joyce forgot to tell me.
Oh no!
Oh,
unbeknownst to
for 2 weeks. Right, like maybe yes, maybe not.
Okay, well. Just a check here. Joyce must have known that you would tell this story when they suggested that we talk to you. Yes. They're throwing themselves under the bus.
Joyce was such a new agent that, this was brand new to her, to them, and they just didn't think to call me. So 2 weeks later, I send her a very, hey, just wondering Did we sell?
Right. Like, did anything happen? Or
and they said, yeah, where have you been?
I'm so sorry. Yes, we have the sale. Like, yay! Can I celebrate now? And Joyce was like, yeah, we celebrated last week. But yes, you should go celebrate.
There's some leftover cake in the fridge here.
That's hilarious. They just must have gotten so swept up in, like, the excitement and just the, right? Like, the selling, like, one of their first sales, I'm imagining, or maybe the first.
I didn't know at the time because romance is all sold as series. You do not get a 1-book contract. You get a 2 or 3 book contract. And so when it was a 3-book contract, I was like, yeah, okay. That's no surprise.
Meanwhile, Joyce is like, this is huge.
Exactly. And my adult book agent is also at the same agency, Nicole Resinetti. And I was actually having dinner with her for a different reason. And and Nicole was like, this is amazing. And I was like, yeah, it's really nice. She's like,
let me break this down for you. Yeah, right. That's, oh my God, awesome.
So, okay, well, I'm glad that you suggested or offered up that you were agented by Nicole, because that's something that I wanted to investigate. Because within the talking about adult publishing, part of your story of how you came to Kidlit, you were talking about the self-publishing cadence of how things come out, and the interaction with publishers and things. So, had Nicole always been your agent for adult?
I wish. Nicole is actually, I think, my 6th agent.
Oh my!
I have been in this industry since the 90s, in publishing since the 90s, and did at the beginning, like you do, you publish, or you get so close to publishing and then something happens. I'd had 3 contracts where the line closed before my book came out or just after. And so it was
coincidentally, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, so just on the edge, and then no. And then also I was still writing screenplays. I actually have a master's in professional writing from University of Southern California. So I was still trying to do screenplays from, Central Illinois. So I have ADHD. So here's a slight conversational segue.
Yeah.
My husband also went to USC, and he got an MBA. And he wanted to come back to the Midwest. I wanted to stay near Hollywood for obvious reasons. So we had a race to see who could get a paying job first. Him with an MBA, with a little IT background, or me.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, the deck was kind of stacked, I'm going to say.
Bit.
Like...
So I came back to the Midwest, popped out some babies, and then, worked to break in. After a little bit, I gave up on the screenplays because Central Illinois. I broke in novels. So, but anyway, you were asking about my agents. So I connected up with Romance Writers of America, which is every genre has a national organization behind them. There's RWA for romance. There's SIFWA for science fiction fantasy. There's Sisters in Crime for mystery. There's another mystery one, too. And then, of course, Squibby for kids' book.
Okay.
So I connected.
So that's the equivalent. Okay. Thank you for that, connection, because I was trying to track, and I'm like, I didn't know that there were these organizations, but SCBW, I got it. That's the equivalent for romance.
I want to ask you that. So I've always called it Squibby because that's
so does Amy Dykman. Yeah, Amy Dykman says that also. So I always say SCBWI. Lots of people say Squibby. I think either.
It's the fun and kidlit-friendly way to pronounce it. So let's just make that our headcanon. It's our equivalent of Luke Skywalker's girlfriend.
Somebody needs to draw a Squibby or write the story of Squibby. I feel like it could be a whole, a character.
Great
just
idea.
nonsensical, like,
you know. Even make it a naked squibby if you wanted.
If you want. Yes. Yes. Anyways, yeah, so there are these organizations behind each genre.
I start as soon as I started seriously pursuing writing, which, you know, I was. I started going to RWA events, and they had this humongous network of classes, and they trained you up, and every conference gave you sit-downs with editors and agents. So RWA truly trained me up in the genre industry.
Wow.
So through there, I got my agents, and it's not that I'm a bad client, I don't think. But I've had 2 of them leave agenting, and I mean, I've been doing this for decades. So there's turnover. And
yeah, as long as they didn't leave just after publishing one of your books.
So I actually was speaking at an event with Nicole, and she turned to me and she said, "Hey, we should get together for coffee at some point." Now, I didn't know at the time that my agent was very ill. I found that out. So soon afterwards, I mean, it took, I don't know, it was a whole year-long process of things ending with my current agent, and then I put together a project that let me put it this way. We never pursued that project because it was out there. But I ended up saying that, I mean, Nicole had really impressed me with good reason. So I called her up and said, "Look, I've got this proposal. It's out there. If you don't like it, then, I mean, if you could just take a little bit of time, skim through the first chapter, and see if this is anything you'd like to represent." So I thought it would take months, because it always takes months. She read it that night, because it was just one chapter, and then called me up the next day and said yes. She would love to represent me. Happy, fantastic.
Amazing,
she also
knew,
I mean, I'd been in the industry for, 20 years by
some
that
chops,
point. So.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not like you're just... Yeah, like somebody that, is going to need a lot of work or hand-holding or...
Well, like a year later, as we're talking, she finally said, no, this is not a project she will represent. And I hadn't finished writing it anyway. She says, I picked you up, yes, because of your history and your publishing career, but because these pages were ballsy. That was her exact word. It was ballsy.
I like that.
You are taking chances. Instead of writing the same story over and over and over, you're really pushing. And
it was not, of course,
that
not being the title of the romance story that you were...
That was not the title of the romance story.
But it will be the title of the next one. So
I think it was
thank you, Josh.
Like The Yoga Teacher's Guide to Demon Hunting.
Amazing. Talk about a mashup.
Out on the edge. I never wrote it, but...
Can we just take a minute, though, to highlight the fact that it's... Because this sort of transcends, all genres, from picture book up to adult romance, like everything in between, all the stuff. Like, write the thing that you're psyched to write, right? I mean, like, you took a chance because that seemed fun to you. Like, you were into doing that, and she saw that. And that's the reason she picked you up. It wasn't the story in the end, but that's fine. If you're not out there writing what you want to write, it's not going to resonate with the right person, right? So even if like the story doesn't resonate, you will.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. She and I have talked many times since about, all right, where am I going? What should I write? All of this. And that's why she told me that. She's like, okay, I do not want you doing the tried and true. I want you being ballsy. Just not quite that ballsy.
Maybe just not that yoga ballsy. Just bring it down a little. Bring it down one notch.
Could somebody else fight demons?
Right. Who else do we have? Soccer moms, perhaps.
Yeah.
That
could be like one notch down.
That's tried and true. Soccer moms and demons.
Right, that's an obvious trope. I'm sorry. You're right. That's so boring.
Obviously for the podcast, for purposes of the podcast, our most direct experience with Seymour is with Joyce, but we're painting a picture here of a very diggable vibe that Seymour has as an agency, with some chill agents that are willing to entertain the weird.
Absolutely. And so Nicole is the head of the agency, and she has been aggressively pursuing film, television, streaming, all of that stuff. She indeed, these are picture books for the very young set. And she's like, so give me a television treatment. And I was like, I beg your pardon? This is for a 1-year-old. And she's like, yeah, there's children's content out there. Why not yours?
It's a kid speaking to camera. Yeah, for sure.
It's true.
And
that's true.
So yay. No one's bought it yet, but,
Yeah, but to have the foresight, to think that way, that's what you need. And I did want to say that we have talked about Nicole before on the podcast, because we had Marissa Cleveland come on, also from Seymour, and we chatted to her about Nicole and just how the agency is run, and how Nicole sort of, is that sort of like contract person because she's been in the business for so long. And so all of the Seymour agents sort of work under the umbrella she's created, which is amazing.
I am very, very lucky to be under the umbrella of the Seymour Agency. Both Joyce and Nicole are amazing. And I've worked with some of the other agents just peripherally and seen them at events and stuff. And the whole agency is amazing. And that,
we've heard great things across the board. Yeah.
Okay, so logistically speaking, because I feel like I'm trying to channel aspects of this that are, our kidlit specific audience will be interested in, and I think that we've never talked about this sort of permutation, certainly with multiple agents representing different aspects of your work at the same agency. We have talked to agents about representing multiple genres, from middle grade chapter book, picture book, and YA. But certainly two agents. This is a first for us. So I'm wondering, was there a formal point at which you consider Joyce to have become your agent? Because the negotiation was very fuzzy, right? Like, write all this stuff. Let's have a negotiation. Let's work together. But but did you sign? Did you declare that relationship?
Honest to God, do not remember. Joyce told me fairly early on, once we got to the point of picking the favorite. So, I've done 50 books for Joyce, and they've critiqued it and said, this is a good one. She has they have a good file and a, yes, you wrote that file.
I like that. I appreciate that title. So
when I had enough in the good file, we sat down and it was, we discussed what would we go out. And at some point, Joyce said that they'd like to represent me. And I said, yeah.
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote all this stuff for you.
Exactly.
You better.
And so I don't actually remember if we codified it. I know that within the agency that there is, so kids' books are represented to me for, Joyce represents the kids' books for me. But we did have an interesting thing where Nicole, my adult book agent, had a contact into Disney Publishing. And so Nicole can be very hard to get on the phone. So I'm walking downstairs to watch some TV in the family room. And just as we hit play, because it was something recorded, the phone rings and it's Nicole. And my husband's like, I'm like, oh my God.
Right? Everybody shut up. Yeah.
So I say, hi, Nicole. This is a surprise. I'm glad we finally connected because I have these 5 things, because I keep a list of things. And Nicole said, hi, Don't have a lot of time. I need 10 story ideas for Disney. Go.
Okay, well, let me check that file that Joyce has.
So,
oh my God, how many people listening are, would love that call? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
you're just like, anyways.
Nicole had a contact. I put together as fast as I could. I'm reading, I'm buying. Suddenly we're getting all this stuff from Disney, the Disney books that I'm reading and looking in and studying. So I put together my 10 ideas, sent it to her. Nicole said, great, submitted it, and sadly, it didn't go anywhere.
But still.
At one point, I asked Nicole, I said, normally I would run this stuff through Joyce, because Joyce is such a good editor for, and has a much better eye for kids' books than I obviously did at the beginning, and probably much more now, even now. So anyway, I told her I would normally run this through Joyce. But Nicole explained that would pollute the, then any commission would maybe have to be split, all this. So it is my understanding that the agenting career is about your contacts. So it's one of the reasons why I have an adult book agent, especially a romance adult book agent, and a kid lit agent. Because Nicole's contacts are deep, she knows all of the primary romance editors. And she can look at a manuscript and go, oh, this person will love this person won't. And right. She just knows by looking at it. Ditto for Joyce in Kidlit. Joyce can look at a project and think, these people would be interested, like these editors like meta books. And I adore meta books. So... yeah. These are my agents. These are the people who would like my manuscripts. And those two, a lot of times that subset of contacts doesn't cross. So Nicole has not put the time in to know kids' books editors, and Joyce certainly doesn't know anything about the adult romance market, except for what I've already told them. So yeah, right. That's why you split. That's why, it is, and I know people who have different agents for different projects in different agencies. That's actually very rare. Under one umbrella, like I've done, the Seymour Agency is much better. But back when I was trying to sell screenplays, I had a film agent that was not associated with any of the book stuff. But that was decades ago. Now everybody wants to come together. They want all of you.
Hey, guess what? It's time for some book recommendations. And Brenna's starting out the gate really strong this week. Maybe tonally appropriate given all of the post-election shenanigans that have been going on. But we're going to move past that and move forward and move positively. But first, Brenna's review for this week is I Hate Everyone by Naomi Danis. This sparse poetic text is the perfect exploration of a child's complex feelings and a valuable insight into why it can be so hard to recover from a bad mood. Get it. I get it. The dark, moody illustrations give the main character and her terrible mood the permission to be felt, something we could all use from time to time. And again, right now. It's me editorializing a bit. Canadian John doesn't suffer the same sorts of torments as we do. Maybe eventually, just not right now. So John's review for this week is NUTSHIMIT in the Woods, a breath of fresh air journey through the forest, guided by Innu author Melissa Mollen Dupuis. With bold and playful illustrations by Elise. This book is an awesome introduction for children and young readers into Innu culture and language. Sounds amazing. But again, John, you're not doing your out of 5 out of 5 woods, I guess. Hashtag bring back John's ratings. Anyway, my review for the week is for Minh Le's Real to Me, out from Penguin last year in 2023. I love a book with a satisfying twist. This puts me in mind of Kaylee Pugh's Monster Above the Bed in the sense that humans are the other and monsters, or whatever Minh Le's protagonist are at the center of the story rather than humans themselves. This gives readers a great sense of perspective in framing and reacting to really common kids' situations. In this case, it's loss, and it's loss that doesn't get fixed in the end. It's a very growth mindset oriented book, depicting not solving a problem, but instead adapting to a new reality, which is itself a kind of problem solving when the problem itself can't be fixed. The art in this book is lush and gorgeous, and the whole thing is touchingly poignant, and I love it. To support the podcast, I would ask you to do two things. One, take a look at our Linktree at linktree.com/verseshow, where you can get access to all of our other episodes. You can buy a t-shirt in case you're cold on a winter night. You can support the podcast with a shout out. Any number of things can happen if you go to our Linktree. The other thing that I would request that you do is, again, patronize and check out our sponsor, Tealmore Press's website, tealmorepress.com, including one recent release as well as another upcoming release. The recent release is Sue Lancaster's Supermoon, and Alan Mayfair's Naked is the picture book that's coming up to release on December 7th of this year, 2024. Please do those few things for me, if you would, while you are listening to this episode. Dry your hands from dishwashing, or put the dog back in the house, and go check those things out. With no further ado, I will go ahead and take us back to the episode. So I hope you enjoy the rest of our chat with Kat Chen. Fascinating and fuzzy and weird. How long was the? I want to get into your way of writing, because I find this fascinating as well. I'm less of a romance fan and more of a writing throughput fan.
Got it.
Although I'm fascinated by your books and how many there are and all that. But what I'm sticking on, or what my brain's sticking on, is this: write me 20 or 30 manuscripts, which feels like a big ask, but not for you, who's used to this giant throughput of pushing through and taking your ego out of the writing. I'm making presumptions based on how you write.
It took about a decade for the industry to beat me down enough that I had zero ego left. And
right.
This is the romance industry. So I came to Joyce fully formed as look, I know you have to put in the work. And, I've been doing the romance grind, and I'm calling it a grind because it is, but I also love it. So when I'm in a writing phase, which is almost always, I do 2,000 words a day. That's
wow.
7 to 10 pages in there. And,
wow.
That's what you do. And I used to so my idea was I have to write 10,000 words a week. And if I miss a day, that's okay. You make it up, and, maybe you start writing on Saturdays, which is what I did. Well, I learned when I'm in that writing phase, if I take one day off, the next day is 10 times harder. So I'm always writing, even if it's the weekend and I've already done my 10,000 words this week. I add, let's look at it. Let's think about it. Let's, maybe, I don't know, do a blog or something to keep in that world.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, what you're saying about staying in the world, that is very hard, because I mostly write picture books, but I have written a couple of middle grades and a YA, and because I sometimes need to take a break from it because it's very intense and whatever, so I'll come out, write something else, but then if I come back in, it takes me an hour to get acclimated again, right? To remember. To remember where I'm at, to get the voice, to remember what I was doing next, and then by that time, my writing time is sort of evaporated. I've got a kid at home, I've got other stuff going on. Yep. So it is really difficult, like you're saying. So just to stay in that mindset and that voice for, however many months or weeks or whatever it takes. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That just made me think,
fine.
It's hard.
What I discovered was that kids' picture books, and remember, I'm not doing chapter books, I'm not doing middle grade, I'm not doing YA, God forbid. I have tried young adult. No. I actually wrote a full one with my nephew, and my agent was like, this is lovely, but it's just it's not the right voice.
It went in the. You certainly did write this pile.
I was gonna say, yeah. Way to go, you did it.
You did it. But with picture books, so we're talking, 150 to 300 words. This is a warm-up for me. It was all about the idea. So I would play with my grandkids. I would sit there and watch Blue's Clues or whatever. It's Bluey, not Blue's Clues. Sorry, I'm dating myself here. Or I would walk down the street with the child and something would spark. I have written a full picture book as I was driving somewhere, and I was like, oh, that's the idea. I pulled off into a rest stop and typed it up on my phone. Now, those didn't happen to be ones that Joyce put in the good file, but still.
But still, it gets things moving, right? It's like you get the cadence and sort of like how, the structure and how you want to do it. Yeah.
So it's one of the things I love most about Kids' Book is that I get the spark, and then within an hour I have a rough draft. Now, I am stunned by how much editing goes in on my own part as well as others. We didn't like the word "and" here. It needs to be "in." It's like, no, it's an "and." It's, am I going to fight over an "and" or an "in"? And I've had this conversation with myself, and, to fight over something that small in a 100,000-word manuscript is ridiculous.
It's a complete mindset shift. Yeah.
You stet it and move on, and the editor will never notice.
Right.
Right, because there's just so much.
And I actually remember getting the first revision notice for Play With Me. And she said, do you think you could have this back to me in 2 weeks? And I'm like, how about a half hour?
Right.
Now,
right.
But again, it took me an hour or more because I'm looking at little words. So every word has extra weight. But the spark happens, and within an hour I have a rough draft. And I will do the spark for the Play With Me series was I listened to my husband read a kid's book to grandbaby, and he just read it. And I was
he didn't perform it. Yeah.
He didn't perform it. He didn't ask questions. He didn't say, well, what do you think? And but in his defense, the child was very small.
Not doing a lot of responding, but still.
But I remember when our kids were little, he just read. They always wanted me reading to them because I would ask questions, I would perform, I would,
more interactive.
At a certain point, I would pretend to say the wrong thing. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not Winnie the Pooh. That's George from the grocery store. So it occurred to me when I saw my son-in-law doing the same thing of just reading the book. It's like, all right, we need to be more interactive. And so that's how the Play With Me series got started, because it's all, hi, I'm, Ellison, what's your name? Here's my lovey. Do you want to go do this? Oh, that's a lot of fun. And what cookie do you want? So all of that interaction is built in so that even when you're tired, you can, and it is automatically set up to engage with your child, which I think was the concept that sold it.
Is fascinating that you are making a board book that is, at least partially or by design, aimed at adults and facilitating their role as an educator. Or how they facilitate learning and engagement from the child that they're reading to.
I saw a TED Talk on how does language develop, and it was 15, 20. You know how TED Talks are, but it's a catch and release, where you ask the child a question, the child understands the question and answers back, and it can be a yes, no, it can be a point, but that's how language develops. So that's what I wanted for these books, which is what I wrote. And then to help Joyce a little bit, I actually sent her that TED Talk, which they later told me they sent that on to the editors as well to say, look what we're doing.
Wow, that is taking comps like one step further. Like, check out this TED Talk. This is what I'm going to comp to. Yeah. I mean, and I was going to, part of getting ready for chatting to you today, when I read your books, I was like, that's interesting because you're changing from sort of like, this is what's happening, sort of like a third person point of view. And then it goes into second because it's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, that's like that transition is really interesting. And then it sort of goes back and forth, but that is exactly what you're trying to do as a parent or as an adult reading to a young child. Yeah, you want that interaction and to sort of be that person reading the book, having that to like lean on, so it's going to be there anyways. You don't have to do a lot of like thinking on your own. You're tired, like it's already there. That's a really interesting perspective, like Josh had said, because I didn't come across that way, which I think makes it like that much better. Like it was seamless. It's there, but I didn't take it as that. It was like, oh, that's really cute. Like that's really sweet. They're like involving the reader and whatever. So it was really well done.
Thank you. And I just found out 2 days ago that Play With Me, the first book of the series, just got a starred library journal or school library journal review. So
amazing. Amazing. Congratulations.
Joyce has learned that I don't necessarily understand, the levels of reviews in kids lit. Because, if you told I can tell you what the levels in adult romance, you got a review from them, then, okay, whatever. But you got a review from these people. This is great. So
yeah.
Joyce came back with, by the way, this is huge.
Right. This you should definitely celebrate. I'm glad we found out at the same time.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm going to tell you right away this time.
Joyce also said, put it in your bio, send it back. So it's like, change your bio, put it in there. It's like, okay, This is important enough to be in the bio.
Yeah. Awesome.
Can I tell you a late-breaking Joyce thing? Both of you?
Please.
Yes.
Depending on how the next several months work out, this may or may not stay in the episode when we release it, or we'll just edit it out. But I got an editorial note back from Joyce on the manuscript that I sent them a couple of days ago. We have had a back and forth. They are so fast. We've had a back and forth over the past couple of months, which to me is really reminiscent of the. Your fingers were cut off, but I presume that they were crossed.
Yeah,
there they are.
It's not 20 or 30 manuscripts for sure, but it was the interaction that we've had is much more reminiscent of not a query and yes/no response, but it's like a conversation. Working with Joyce or interacting with Joyce is very different than the interactions that I've had with other agents. The email that I just got is, interesting. Have you considered this, and this? And it's not a ton about the manuscript that I've sent, and it's also not a yes. It's just it's a thoughtful. Let me see more.
I was really lucky to start working with her with them when they were just starting at the agency. So they were looking for clients. Right now, sad for you, happy for me, Joyce is very booked and very selective who they do this back and forth with. So you are part of the chosen few. Good luck to you.
They said I've achieved folder status. Which I don't know if that's you wrote this folder or not, but
I think it's worth it to say too, like it's so hard to know or to recognize right away whether or not a new agent is going to grow into that agent that is, really good at their job and really knows what they're doing. Because Yeah, I mean, now there's like a ton of new agents every day, all the time. And we're always trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the background? Do they have a mentorship in place? Who did they learn under? What are their contacts? Like, what do they know? What are they looking for? Like, and it's so hard to vet because you don't always know.
So,
you just don't know. Years
ago, I went to a presentation by agents, one agent in particular. This agent, he was a guy. I can't remember his name. There aren't that many male agents inside the romance industry. But I had long since learned there's sort of a flow to an agent's career. The agent starts out, is looking for clients. Maybe they're being mentored by a larger agency, maybe not. But it's all about making those contacts. And they are hungry for manuscripts, hungry for good writers, and so they are working with newer people. They are open to new people coming in. Same, by the way, for young editors. You start out as being the editor that is looking at the slush pile, and you're learning craft from whoever's ahead of you, and you're looking for people and the skill to start taking your own pool of authors. Anyway, so as the agent progresses, he or she gets a full stable of steadily producing writers. Well, where do they go from there? They steadily move up in quality, or they help build the career. Their authors are becoming more prominent. You start branching out into film, television, whatever, but you do not have the time to work with the newbies because you're busy with other things that will pay off more. And you start building and you stop mentoring. Eventually they get to the top of their career and they're looking to haul back onto just a few. And then maybe there's time to mentor again. Well, everyone says, I want the agent who is at the top of their career. Except for that agent probably doesn't have the time, may or may not have, but probably doesn't have the time to mentor a newbie. So you want to grow up with in part, you tend to grow up with your agent. Now, from the agent's perspective, looking at and this was the surprise thing for me, they're looking for people who can, so from the agent's perspective, they are taking you not for one book. They are taking you for your career, because as your career grows, so does theirs. Mm-hmm. So, you want a born storyteller. You want someone who has an understanding of the business and has enough structure to produce, to schedule, and to take some direction. Now, this agent was talking specifically about you do not want status seekers. And at the beginning of their career, status seekers look identical to the born storyteller because they're just churning out work. They're desperate to be seen. They are pushing, and it's very much like, hey, on Monday morning, here's what I'm working on. Where are we on those 3 projects that I sent you? And I wrote a graphic novel over the weekend. So where, it's in your inbox where you submit. Are you
talking to me, Kat? I feel like this is a very targeted.
No, you're not a status seeker, though.
What?
I'm not a status seeker, no, but I am very much like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on.
That is the born storyteller as well, because we just have these ideas and they keep pouring out, and we, please somewhere, somebody look at something. Please, for the love of God, someone will love this, I know. That is
I feel so seen right
now. So the agent is looking at the client and is trying to learn and everybody wants a certain measure of status, and everyone in this career is a storyteller. But so there's a scale. So totally. The agent wants the born storyteller. And as they get further on in their career, they're not willing to risk the status seeker. that's part of the problem, because by the time they're further on in their career, they've been burned by status seekers or bad clients or undisciplined or whatever. So, that was his message to us writers, saying, look, if you're a born storyteller, here's how you tell me you're not. You don't call me every Monday.
Right.
And I had a different agent who said, you not only have to, in your writing career, stay on the same bus, but in the same seat in the bus. So at that time, the message was to romance writers, don't do historicals and time travels and space operas and all of that. In kids lit, I've got to believe it means don't splinter into young adult and new adult and picture book and, some is science fiction, some is, because kid lit is even more vast than the romance genre. And that's hard to believe because I know how big the romance genre is. So, as the natural-born storyteller, absolutely produce a metric crap ton of content. But then you and your agent need to whittle that down to, here's the best, here's what we're going to go out with, and here's where you're going to make the market changes. Oh my God, does the market change? So this piece that you wrote here is not going to sell today, or not likely to sell today, but hold on to it.
Through no fault of your own. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kat, that is a fascinating insight / breakdown. I don't know if I've ever heard it said in that way, but I think you are exactly right, and I feel like it resonates so well with just what people are going through in terms of finding their first agent or moving through, getting published for the first time, or even I recently switched agents, and I, now sort of finding my footing, and the cadence of working with my new agent is also, sort of a learning process. But we're doing exactly what you're saying. I have all of this content, and we've gone through and we've figured out what are the ones that are going to be at the top that we're going to go out with. What are the ones that we need notes on? What are the ones that are just going to go into the file that are okay, I know that you can write this kind of thing. Way to go. But that one is not my favorite. That's fine.
As Joyce says, because the editors are talking to them. If the editor says, I am desperate for a, how can I talk about my favorite potty book?
Please.
Let's do it.
I was helping potty train my grandbaby, and all the potty books I was reading to her just weren't the rah books. So I started chanting, who put the pee-pee in the great big potty? She goes, it's me! I peed! You put the pee-pee in the great big potty?
It's like an impromptu Dead Manuscript Society submission. This is amazing.
And there was, she wiped, she swiped, she flushed, and then, we wash hands, and then
you gushed.
And at the very end, everyone in the family, including the cat and dog, go, we're proud, so proud.
Oh.
Okay.
Which folder is that in?
You also wrote it. Because I loved it. I thought this was the bomb.com. My grandbaby loved me doing this. My husband, this might have been a clue. Everybody else in the family was like, no, Mom, you go do the potty song. I'm not doing that. I'm not. No. So we did several, two rounds of submissions on that, and no.
No. And Joyce is avowedly sort of not a humongous fan of the potty humor. And
Joyce,
all that stuff,
but
anyway.
she went with that because Nicole and I both loved it. So Joyce said, all right, if this is what you want to go out with, go ahead. And, I mean, it took a year through all the different submissions, but, we're out with a different one now.
Yeah.
It's interesting what we're inspired to do by our kids or grandkids. But I had, early in pandemic times, when I was trying to teach my kids how to wash their hands properly, I had a little rhyme that I did where you rub and you scrub, and then you make a spider named Bub. And I'm doing it for the people listening. I'm doing a thing with my hands where you interweave your fingers to get the little cracks in between your fingers.
You rub, you scrub, you make a spider named Bub?
Yeah, Bub? I don't know why. It's because it rhymes.
That's fantastic.
I never turned that into a picture book. I mean, you're free to run with that if you feel like you can make that into something, or hashtag spider named Bob on social media. Do your pictures.
My brain went to Doug. I wanted the spider.
Doug.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's very businesslike.
And then does the spider do fun things after you make it?
No, because Dad gets aggravated with them not.
He does business.
Washing their hands. Yeah, exactly.
He has a briefcase and a mustache.
Yeah, if his name is Doug. No, I mean it's an example of the ideas that we have that don't necessarily always translate themselves to the written word. But the question, okay, so there's a question in this silly example of my ridiculousness, which is, do a lot of your does a lot of your work have that level of intentionality behind it, whether it's rah-rah potty or let's make this easy for parents? Because that seems very voicey to me. If there's that sort of like, I have a point for the story that I'm writing.
Well, the adult books, the point is, I mean, that's different. The adult books there's a series, there's a love story, that's different.
Right.
If you're talking about my kids' book, there is always some sort of spark. I wrote one that is in the good file but has not gone into submission. I was walking with Ellie, and she was, 1.5, and she stopped to say hello to everything. Hello to the blade of grass, hello to the, and she was just working on conversations, but, it took us half an hour to get 2 doors down because she was saying hello to everything.
And that was a wonderful experience for her, I'm sure.
I just thought that was adorable, so I wrote a book titled Hello, Hello, where a child is doing exactly that. And so that spark was there. Mm-hmm. And, so for the Play With Me books, the spark was trying to help parents or my husband read a book interactively. There you go. The potty book was because, God love me, please pee in the potty.
A bit self-serving.
Let's chant. So, kids' books, especially picture books, it's one idea. It's one spark, and you have to not only and I was listening to your podcast, your last podcast, talking about the heart in the book. So it's got to be funny, it's got to be delightful, and it's got to have heart in it. Well, that's 300 words. That's a lot for 300 words.
Yup.
Which makes this a science as much as an art, right?
Exactly. So that's part of the technique you learn. You have the spark. Now let's technique it into, how you want to go. I have a story idea that when I say it's more picture books is where I've broken in, but this is an older picture book. This is actually a board book, so this would be more for the 4 or 5-year-old set. So I wrote it out, and Joyce came back with, this is fantastic as a blog or a short story. Let's try and put it in picture book form. So that's the technique. So then they sent me the blocking. Okay, so what's in this? Here's how many spreads you have. What do you see?
Let's engineer some page turns kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so at one point I was writing comic books, never sold any. Well, I sold one, but then the company went under.
We're establishing a trend line here.
Yes. But anyway, it was the same concept, is learning the technique for the new medium. And so, you always need that spark, even if, taking from my adult side, Even if the spark is you have a contract and a deadline, so get your ass moving.
Right.
But there is always, and that's a terrible spark. That's
for the right type of person. It's a terrible.
It's not the spark.
Yeah.
Not for those of us with ADHD, which I heard you mention earlier. Josh and I both feel. Well, I was diagnosed when I was a kid, so like I'm. My brain's just all over the place, but I need a deadline, and Josh has professed to the same. So it is very helpful in terms of like sort of manufacturing, whatever motivation or spark you might happen to need in that moment. So yeah, I love it. More even arbitrary, give it to me.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Instead of a spark, it's a fire under the ass, right?
Yes.
Right. A contest, right? Like all those like endorphins, right? Like flood my brain with that, like that sweet serotonin.
And if the spigot isn't turned on for story ideas, there have been times when I was like, okay, I will never have another idea again. And then, you sleep for a week, you watch stupid TV, you stomp around the house, and then something happens and it turns on.
Right, you get 30 more ideas, and you're like, hold on, like, I cannot write all these down, like, I need a minute. Yeah,
right.
But
totally.
The more you can produce, if you have an idea, produce words. And then learn the technique to make, and some of these ideas will be the potty book that,
Yep, some have to
nowhere.
Be, to get you to the place that you need to be. They have to be. You have to have a bunch of stuff in the process that just don't make it. Like that's part of it.
Years ago, I read and comics will tell you have to do 10 jokes to get one halfway decent one that you then refine. And at the time, I was like, no, all of my jokes are brilliant.
Yeah.
Some of them might be just a little off brilliant, but all of them are brilliant. No. If anything, that's generous. 1 out of every 10 of my ideas is worth looking at again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had this great idea. This is years ago. I was so excited about this idea about, I don't know if any of you have watched Bridgerton, but that's the time period. It's like, well, there's this frog, and he's an alien in the Regency. and you kiss them, and they become, really hot. But other times, they're just frogs. I was so excited about this idea. I was going to create a new, it's like kissing the frog, only better. I had friends who were going,
Like, I like where you're going with this. What else you got?
What else you got? Exactly. So even my most favorite ideas on the planet can be that bad.
Yeah, it happens. It has to. You have to mine through some of those to get to the gold. You just do.
If you are a born storyteller, if you want to, for whatever reason, entertain and to tell stories, if you are that, then the ideas are there. You just have to allow that spigot to turn on and allow that a bunch of your ideas are going to be smellier than doo-doo. It just happens. And then move on.
Yeah.
Because in that mound, there will be nuggets that can be polished. And this is really a gross analogy. I'm just looking at that image.
It's gold nuggets.
Gold nuggets.
Yeah.
As opposed to the chicken nuggets.
Yeah. Joyce, if you're listening, you can tune out. We'll put the timestamps of when we talk about potty stuff in the show notes.
But honestly, Joyce brings that up as an example of a book that I was passionate about and they pursued because I wanted to pursue it. So they put it out, they put it through the ringer until I finally said, okay, you can stop.
Yeah, right, right.
There's so in all seriousness, there's a fine line between and I don't presume that Joyce was doing this in any sort of punitive or educational way, but there's a funny version of this where, I will honor your passion and send this through versus I will honor your passion so that I can show you that this idea does not work. I don't think that's what they were doing.
I don't know how much. I'm sure there was a little bit. They absolutely said, "Look, this is not my thing, but you have children. You know, we will put it out." There was also, I'm sure, a part of them going, "This is never gonna work."
Yeah.
So where that needle went on percentage of, all right, we'll give it a shot, and no.
Let me show you. Yeah.
Right.
But if any editor is listening and wants that potty chant, I'm telling you.
You know where to find
loved it.
Kat.
Yes. It's the Disney break-in. Just put it. The main character is an alien frog.
Oh, there we go.
That when the alien frog goes potty, it turns into a really super handsome buff dude. That's what's going to unlock that.
That's it. That's.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kat, I just want to be aware we are over the hour already, and I just want to be aware of everybody's time.
Have I been a hoot?
Oh, you have been
an absolute
such a hoot. It's been so. I mean, I feel like I could chat for another hour, and it would be like it would just fly by. Really, it's been so delightful chatting with you and hearing all the backstory.
That's right.
It's been amazing. And so the first two books in the Play With Me series are out. Is that right?
Correct.
Or they're coming out. Okay.
No, they're both out. And then there's the third. So it's Play With Me. Play with me. Play Outside With Me. And then Play Games With Me comes in November. And
amazing.
So, and each book is very interactive, and we made the editor made the decision to make each main character different. So, the first book is Ellison, the second book I think is Sam. I personally, and they agreed, wanted gender neutral names. So you can have a Sam that's Samantha or not.
Yeah.
Anyway. Right.
Also,
awesome.
They're different ethnicities. They are all, though, what do you think about this? And the child has choices. And, you can talk about, well, I want the banana. My Ellison, my grandbaby, was a little upset that in the first book, the monkey got the banana. And so we discussed sharing the banana, breaking it in half, or, and I was like, well, can we bring another banana? And she's like, there's only one banana on the page.
Right? She's all like, slap. No. You can't, can you not see?
But this was quite the serious discussion. And then her younger sister started toddling up, and it's like, you don't get a banana.
Wow. Take the wrong message from this book.
Right? Well, I mean, listening audience, look for Kat's books out now, the two of them, and then the third one will come in November. And we will probably, I think this episode airing will probably line up pretty well with that November release. So that will be helpful in terms of promotion and getting it out. But I wanted to say thank you so much for your time and for coming on and chatting with us. This has been amazing.
I've had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Kat.
Thanks for listening this week.
Find all of our episodes and other associated links and information at linktree.com/verseshow.
Or reach out to us on Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see you next verse.
Bye!